All right. Thank you
I just-
all. Yep.
Do we have an agenda?
Yes, that was sent out a while ago. But there's no course or program action items, so it's not like normal. So don't worry about it. We'll be fine. It's just a few items. And even one of the items we're not actually going to do today. So, you know, I can say we'll probably be done before the sun sets today, everybody.
No way.
Unfortunately, that will not be true for me as I am Central Standard Time.
Oh, that's right. Yes, your sun will be setting, but
The sun is almost set here.
our last two meetings did 6.5 hours and 3.5 hours. So no, we went home in the dark, or at least stepped away from our computers in the dark. No, I'm not teasing, Kent. We're actually probably going to be done today. So we have a couple of items. So the biggest thing we're going to be doing today is we have our guest, Robert Zemlin. Yep, that's right. Who is from eLumen, who's going to be providing training for us today on our program workflows. And I think I've touched on this a little bit, but
the program workflows or the course workflows?
Is it course or program? I thought it was programs. Because we were doing course in the last meeting, but there was a cancellation. So my expectation, I think everybody was expecting we're doing program this time. But if you're set up for course,
I'm set up for course, and then I'm going to follow up with the next meeting with programs, because it really does benefit to do them in sequence.
That's fine. The sequence really isn't that huge a thing to us. And if it's better to go from courses to programs, I think that's perfectly fine. So we're going to have then our training on course workflows. But I just wanted to, so I've touched on this a bit, wanted to make sure everybody knows kind of why we're doing this now. We had hoped to do this last year. We put in a request in April, it kind of disappeared, and we were hoping to do the leadership training for the committee in summer and then get you guys trained in the first couple of meetings of fall, and that did not work out. So that's why we're doing it now, and that's part of why fall went the way it went. But the training is here now because this is training from eLumen. We're paying for it. The training that we've had, me and Catherine and Debbie and Sam up to now, has been very useful, very good, very illuminating about a number of things. One of the things, so it's interesting, so this is going to be in courses, but we have a discussion about program workflows on our agenda. We're still going to discuss that because there's a couple of topics we're going to need to introduce, but that'll be there for our heads when we go to the program workflow training at the next meeting. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and
Scott, I'm going to interrupt you for just a quick second. Did you introduce Dr. Davis?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know if we were doing that. So
you should introduce Dr. Davis since it's his first meeting.
Okay. So yes, our new interim vice president of academic affairs, Dr. Davis here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Catherine. Like I said, I'm interim vice president of academic affairs. I've served on the curriculum committee at my college for several years. Been the lead dean on that. So really excited to be here and work with great people. And I know our our Sam's team and Kyle's team are doing a great job, and we're really looking forward to kind of streamlining this process for everybody and getting everybody acclimated to eLumen and moving forward.
Thank you. All right, so before we move into the training, we have one housekeeping item. We just need to approve our minutes from the last meeting. So if people, so I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Second.
All right, take a look. Any corrections that people see need to be made? All right, all in favor of approving last meeting's minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Me, I never got an agenda. I have nothing to review.
Okay, so one abstention. All right, moving on then. So we will be now moving on into our program training. I'm sorry, our course workflow training. So Robert, if you could just give a quick introduction about yourself and we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Certainly, I'm going to share my screen here so that everyone can see my fancy slideshow. It's not actually mine, it's Megan's, but
And I think you should have the ability to do it.
yep.
Okay,
All right, can everyone see my screen okay?
yes.
Excellent. And so if you see me looking to the left, that's because I have the presentation over on that screen and I have space over here for me to take notes, and any questions that I am not able to answer, I will be passing on to Megan. She and I talked about that. She is the guru. I'm just one of her many disciples right now, learning about curriculum. However, my background is pretty strong. I've been around eLumen now since April of last year. If you put in a ticket to eLumen, I'm probably one of the people that has responded to that ticket and acted on it. I've been a CSA, a customer support associate. I am now moving into a CSM role, customer success manager. I come from a background that combines technology and education. I spent around a decade in the early days of the internet as a kind of a content creator, HTML programmer, and then very quickly into project management for all kinds of different web-based applications. So I have a pretty strong technical understanding without being an actual developer. So I couldn't lay down code, but I do understand how things are put together very well. In addition to that, I spent the following little over 10 years as a K-12 educator. I was an elementary school teacher. So certainly on the assessment side, I understand learning objectives very, very well. That is the lifeblood of elementary education. So that's my background. And I am here now to help you out. I actually am the ABC CSM now. So Megan has asked me to kind of take the reins on this one. Before I get started, are there any questions anyone has about my background or kind of what we're going to be doing here? And I'm doing wait time as I was trained. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the workflows in relation to courses. It does make sense from my mind to kind of progress from courses to programs, because if you think of it, the courses that's where the real meat is. Whereas the programs are kind of the containers for the courses and all the details that are associated with that. That's kind of why I've elected to take that approach. So let's see, here we go. So there I am. So first we want to start by taking a look at the system. There are really three major areas in curriculum that you're going to be dealing with. The first is the curriculum library. The curriculum library is where all approved curriculum, past, present, and future lives. So there will be an initial import, which I believe you've already been through the initial import and probably done some revisions on courses and even some creation. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes.
Excellent.
Just so you know, we've been using the system fully since last year, since definitely last fall.
Okay.
It's just that, now we're actually getting trained to do it.
Right. So you are familiar with those three major tools. The library that's where it houses all the information about those courses. And you can look up your CORs there. And when we talk about program, we refer to those as PORs, course of record, program of record. That all lives. And everything from the point where you were implemented in eLumen to now is housed there, including anything that's coming up. There's a curriculum dashboard. That's where all the in-progress proposals live, and that includes anything that's an amend workflow, a revision workflow, and a new course creation. And in the inbox, that's where if there's something that you need to take account for, whether that's you get something sent back and you need to make a revision to a course, or if it's your job to review, or if it's your job to approve, those workflows will show up in your inbox as kind of a to-do list. Any questions so far? Oop. All right, so the curriculum library is generally pretty substantial. So we do have a search mechanism associated with that. If you are, I love my Mac, I hate my Mac. Right here, you can see that there is a filter that you can use up above. This will allow you to, generally the easiest way to search for courses that I found is by using this course code, because that will zero it in on the exact course that you're looking for. And even if you're looking for a group of courses, like say econ, for example, if you type in ECON, then you're going to see the list of all the econ courses. So it truly works like a filter and not so much as a search. If you put in the exact course code, it will filter it down to just that one course. If you select a course, and you do that by, as you can see here, there is a little blue checkbox that is checked. That is how you select a course. If you select a single course, it'll allow you to view more information, or you can launch the workflow. The view the COR will show you the course record report, the view COR report. That's going to show you the most updated version of the course when you click on that. The view impact report provides the course and programs impacted if you revise this course. If there are requisites or prerequisites or co-requisites attached to it, that will let you know what courses will be affected. The real important button that you'll probably use the most, and I'm sure you already know this, is the show history. That does two things. It allows you to see the past, present, and future versions. So all versions are then listed out in a little pop-up window that comes up, and it shows you in order those. Would you stop? From that point, you can see the COR and of the specific version that you would like to see. Any questions about that so far? As you can see here, this is what the show history actually looks like. You'll see that there are some actions over here available to you. So you see the version history of the specific course or program. The action menu, you can view the COR from here as well. And that will show you the COR that's specific to that version of the course. If a course has been amended, you see down here, we've got this course has been amended twice. It will show you the COR for what amendments have been made. And you can view the COR for those specific amended courses. Any questions about the library? Anything that has come up? I'm going to kind of, as I go through each section, if anyone has any questions about how things are used or anything you've experienced that you wonder about, feel free. The curriculum library is pretty straightforward. It's the place where you view everything. It is not recommended that you go into a workflow to do any work on it from the curriculum library view. That's where there are a couple of ways that you can access the workflows that are effective. The first one is the dashboard. You will see courses in the dashboard depending on what your role and what the permissions for that role are. So if a course, kind of the curriculum specialist, for example, they'll see almost everything. Data steward will see every course. But if I go in as a faculty and look at my curriculum dashboard, I'm not necessarily going to be able to see everything and interact with everything, because it will only show me what is assigned to my specific area. You're going to see all in progress proposals for all the courses and programs when we get to there. And you can use the action menus to view the workflow, view the status, where it is in the workflow stages, view the COR and the POR with the edits. You can view a change report. The change report is currently only available in course. So it will show you what changes have been made in this workflow process. You can view the impact report, and you can delete the workflow. And I kind of want to stop here and make sure that the only person generally who can delete a workflow is the originator. So if you want to delete a workflow that was created by mistake, for example, you want to send that all the way back to the originator, and they will have to delete it then from their curriculum dashboard. I'm going very fast here, so if there are any questions. Okay. The inbox is a little different from the dashboard in that it will only show you, or you will only be able to access those courses that are specific to your role and your permissions connected to that role. For example, so if you are a technical reviewer, for example, only those workflows that are in the technical review stage you will only be able to access those from your inbox. You won't be able to access something that is in the creation stage. You won't be able to access something that's in the approval stage, just those courses that are in that specific technical review phase. And I believe you have a stage that is specific to that, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. To review, you click on Start Review and you complete the review of the proposal. And I'll show you in more detail what that looks like as I get towards the end of the presentation. Once you are done, it will ask you to continue the workflow to finish your work. It will then tell you where it's going next. So if you don't have access to something, you'll see something like this. It says Math 150 here. You got to change your role to faculty in order to access that. And if you don't have that role, you won't be able to access that course. Oh, come on. And as you can see down here, you can see there's opportunities for feedback for several courses for in this inbox. And as most of you know, if there is something in your inbox, generally you are going to be notified by the system through email. You'll get an email to your actual email, your personal email inbox, whatever email you have connected with eLumen. And that will let you know that there's something in your inbox. The other way is when you enter in as that role, if you're a technical reviewer, you'll see there'll be a little red dot over your inbox with the number of workflows that you need to address. Quick note, workflows allow different content and reviewers. That's something that you control and that you create via the workflow. Now, I know you have spent some time working on some workflows with Megan, I believe, and we have some examples of those as we go through. This note is very, very important. If you have, what it says is there can be times where one workflow creates a set of content and another workflow takes it away. The analogy I try to use for this, what that really means is if you have two simultaneous instances of eLumen open and you are trying to, in a group, review a particular workflow. So let's say person A has a copy open and person B has a copy open. Person A makes a bunch of changes and hits submit. Person B still has that workflow open and hasn't made any changes. They go in and make another set of changes that are not the same as person A. When person B hits submit, it overwrites everything that person A did. And the reason for that is once you pull the workflow into your own browser, all that data gets sucked in with it. So when you hit submit, you are literally submitting everything that's in your instance of the workflow. So if you have simultaneous versions open, you are at risk of one person overwriting another person. Does anybody have any questions about what I've just explained?
So I want to check. So if you had two instances open, this person made changes, this person made no changes, but hit submit after, it would wipe out everything the first person. Okay, so the last person to submit is who? Yeah, that's good to know.
It's very important to know, and it's something that's really easy to run into. And unfortunately, we're not any of the Google workspace where people can simultaneously work in, because you have to think of it as it's pulling out of the database and then it's depositing back into the database. So when it pulls all that information out, now that information lives on your local machine. And when you hit submit, it's depositing what's ever on your local machine back into the database. And that's why there's a risk of overwriting there. It's just the nature of database-driven tools.
Robert, that actually gives me makes me think of something. It's kind of related to this. So when we have an added component to our workflow for distance education, and we have not changed this add-on or additional step, but from workflow, let's just say that happened in 2020 to what happened in 2021, the content doesn't carry over on this additional step that we've built. Is that because it's something that we've customized?
No, and what I would suggest is, as a former CSA support associate, that sounds like a bug to me. That's not how it's supposed to work. That content, the only way that content would be dropped is if you changed the actual part in the workflow, so deleted the part and made a new part that was the same thing. So it looks like it's the same part.
No,
But
because
it's not the same part.
this, and I know many people in the space can attest to this. It's the distance ed. It was created by my predecessor. I haven't touched it at all. And when people are revising their courses, I get a lot of feedback saying I had to refill this information out because it wasn't there. Now, for the sakes and purposes of what we need it for, once you get approval, you get approval. But I think people are still concerned that they don't see that information completed. So, I mean, that's another thing we could talk offline, but what you were talking about made me think of that data not carrying over. So,
and that's different than what I was talking about with simultaneous instances open. That's
no,
not something we can fix. What you're talking about, that's a bug. We can fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. We would want to submit a ticket to the tech support. And I'll show you how to do that later. I'm sure you all already know. Because I know I've seen tickets from agency. In fact, I just had a problem with them. Sam, I don't know why they were closing on you. We got to figure that out.
Yeah, we're just special, apparently.
Well, no, it's something with Zendesk. That's not with us. I don't know what's going on there. That's never happened to me before. So, so because of what they're saying, one workflow creates a set of content and another workflow takes it away. Because of this, custom content has been added to all workflows to reduce any perceived data loss. So there are, what you were talking about, the custom part that you built or a custom step. I'm not sure which of those it is. That accounts for some of that data loss. So, but it sounds like you're having some issues with that, with the specific part that was created. Was it a part or a step? Do you know?
I believe it's a step.
Okay. Yeah, we would need to look at that. And I don't want to spend too much time on that, but yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I can put in a ticket for it. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, no problem. All right, any other questions about this quick note? Okay. Workflow progress and notifications. This is kind of what I was referring to earlier with the emails. Notifications, like assessment, go to the email address that is associated with your eLumen account. So whatever was put in, and I'm sure that was through the data load, that email will receive a notification that you have something to review in eLumen. Course workflows provide an email notification to the individuals assigned the roles in the stage the proposal enters. And it's a digest email, and it's sent twice per day. In other words, eLumen kind of shoots those out twice per day. Program, on the other hand, those workflows do not provide any email notification. And we will talk about that again when we talk about the program workflows. So we recommend communicating with the author and reviewers as needed to expedite the review.
And just, I want to drop a note on the agenda where we have communication. It's specifically related to the fact that program workflows do not send out notifications. So we're going to talk a little bit about that more today after the training, but we're not trying to solve it today, but just know that we're going to have a little conversation about that today, because that is something that we need to figure out, is how we set up communication for program notices, since we don't get them from eLumen.
Absolutely. Oh, I have a hand raised.
Yes, hi. My question is, I've had some issues receiving email notifications for course workflows that I personally worked on.
Mhm.
And I had checked my account to make sure that my email address is correct, that I can get a notification. Is there a way to check to make sure that there's nothing wrong in the system that prevents me from receiving feedback directly from a reviewer? If a course been sent back to me personally. I mean, I've been getting email notifications as a reviewer in terms of the courses or programs that I need to review, but not the actual courses that I actually submitted myself. So I was just wondering if there's a way to check into that.
So are you saying you're not getting like when you create a new revision, you're not getting a notification?
I'm not getting a notification if, let's say, a reviewer sent it back to me and made comments or provided me feedback.
Okay.
So, obviously, if I go personally to eLumen, of course, I can see it there, but it might be too late, So I guess my question is if there's a way to be able to check to make sure that I can actually receive the notifications for the courses that I submitted if I receive a feedback.
And so this is through like a quick send back or a full send back?
It could be like just, I'm not sure how to distinguish which is which, but I would get a send back saying, you need to get rid of this, or you need to add this for rationale or something like that. And that could be sent back all the way, to like stage 1 or something for like a comment like that. But anyway, the point is for some reason, I'm not able to receive the actual feedback as a submitter of that course, but I am getting notifications for my role as a reviewer, but not as a submitter. So
And I think that might have to do with the nature of the way that those notifications work. And I want to double check that with Megan. I think it notifies you when it moves through a stage. I'm not quite so clear how the send back notifications work, and I want to confirm that with Megan. So I'm going to look into that for you, and I'll get an answer.
All right,
Bob,
thank you, appreciate it.
if I can just add, whether the email is going to Richie or not, I think that's one problem, but I do want to just distinctly say that if it does get sent back, it does not tell you what parts you need to correct. So for that specifically, you need to go into the activity log, review comments, etc. Because if you get the email saying you need to fix something, it doesn't give you specifics on what exactly needs to be fixed. So that is for sure, we've confirmed that is not a function that eLumen has. But we still, obviously, Bob, please try to figure out if he is receiving the emails altogether, what is causing that issue. I think there was someone else in the chat who said who has inconsistency with their programs as well as far as when it gets sent back. So.
Right. And I just want to make sure that I get how those notifications are sent out, and also want to look and make sure that the eLumen, what the email that we have in eLumen, it matches. But since you're getting for the other, it's not an issue with the email. I will look into that.
Thank
And
you,
actually,
appreciate
can
it.
I ask one thing? I think with the emails, if you're getting like emails from multiple roles, doesn't that come as one email where everything is grouped together? Or do you get a separate email for each role? I thought it all comes as one email.
Well, typically the emails that I'm getting are the workflows to review, right? Like for like the inbox. But when it comes to me personally receiving specific feedback, from, let's say, a course that I submitted, for some reason I haven't been getting, I did not get any of those. So until, if I decide to just go into eLumen to check, it would be too late, so unless I check it like every few days or every week consistently. So I guess that's my question is, it's not so much about specific comments that I'm getting, but I'm not even getting the email notifications at all for if I'm receiving a feedback for the courses that I submitted.
Okay, but I was asking Bob if he knows if that's the standard for eLumen.
As far as I've seen, it's usually if there a particular event will trigger a particular email. I don't believe that those are all grouped together.
Okay. And Cindy said she gets different emails. Sorry, but I wanted to check on that.
I have about 10, 15 roles assigned to me just because I toggle and troubleshoot. When I receive an email about something, I get one email as, rep number 1, curriculum chair, VPAA, so I get them all grouped in one email. They have different courses in each of the sections, but it's one large email with all the various stages that I'm connected to.
But it's specific to that one workflow?
No, there's for example, I pulled up an email. This is from January 26th. I have AP&P committee member from Arts and Humanities. I have a dozen courses here. Those are separate. Then as a curriculum chair, I have a separate course. So I think from what we understood from the training with Megan is the system spits them out at particular times of the day, and whatever action happened, that's what gets sent via email. But because I have multiple roles assigned to me, then I all the notifications. So if I was actively working these various roles, I would go in as, Arts and Humanities rep number 1, and I have 10 courses. And then as curriculum chair, I'd have 1 course that moved into my inbox. I've been receiving these notifications like this since I started. So it's been a year. So they're always grouped together. But I am not an author on any workflow as Richie's describing. So that would have to be something, I guess, that we could test. But I would imagine it might be grouped in the same email, just maybe at the bottom if it is. I'm not sure.
what I want to do is I want to talk to Megan about this because, and get you some documentation on exactly how it all works. Because that is one area that I don't have a lot of experience on. It's not something that's very easy to test on our end as like a CSA. Very difficult to test the email notification part because it requires me plugging in a bunch of emails all over the place and it becomes kind of onerous. So I'm going to simply find the documentation on that for you and send that along so that we can clarify that. And rather than me just kind of spitballing it. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm going to go to the expert on that one is what I'm saying. Any more questions? It sounds like this is something though that's without saying it's a major issue, it's definitely something you want a clearer understanding of.
Yes.
Okay. I will make sure that happens. Any more questions about these notifications? And I'm sorry I can't provide better detail right now, but I will get it for you. All right. Course workflows. All right. Whoop. You have choices based on what work you plan to do. And I know you have several different course workflows that seem relatively new to me. You've got creating a new course, and that's that new course development 202230. And I just got to ask, what do those numbers mean? It threw me off when I saw them.
So the first four numbers is the year.
Okay.
And then our terms are 30 for spring, 50 for summer, and 70 for fall.
Awesome.
But
Okay.
It's a way that we abbreviate what term. It's just the effective because we have so many versions. I just try to keep it straight with the term that I create them for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I just wanted to make sure I understood it as well. And I didn't get a chance to talk to Megan about it when she handed this off to me. And I was like, what? Because that's unique. So you have the new course development. You have a non-substantial course revision. This is meant to update the homework, the MOE, the MOI, and textbooks only, correct?
Correct. There's
And
a MOE is methods of evaluation, MOI methods of instruction.
Instruction, yep. And then a substantial course revision, which I'm sure is when you're revising everything, including and up to the SLOs, the CSLOs for that course. The important thing to remember, and I love this slide that Megan put in. This is Megan's slideshow. I love this slide. You must choose, but choose wisely. Make sure you pick the right grail. Once you pick a workflow type, there is only one way to rid yourself of that workflow type, and that would be you would have to completely delete the workflow and start over. You can't adjust the workflow mid-process.
And this is important because we ran into this a bit last year. So definitely when you're talking to faculty, when they're developing courses, if they pick a bunch of courses and they're going to do non-substantial, and then they start changing stuff that's substantial, they can't just flip it. They have to delete and start all over again. So just really be aware of that.
Okay, so creating a new course, you're going to log in. You're going to check the role and the department that you're in. So it would be faculty, and I'm going to just look at something here. Let's say econ, for example. You're going to select the econ department. So you've got your role, you've got your department checked. Then you're going to navigate to the curriculum library, and you're going to select the new course button. Now for new course, you really only have one option, and that is the new course development 202230. And you'll click on that icon and it will bring you to, the course revision. On the other hand, you have a choice. You can either do the non-substantial or the substantial. Again, you log in, you check the role, you check the department, find the course in the library, select it, and then select, instead of new course, you select new revision. And then you're going to select the appropriate option depending on what changes you are making to that to the course. Any questions so far? This is all pretty straightforward. Yeah, so just a note, the content is all the same in both revisions, but the stages of the workflow are going to differ. And we will specify that as we go through. Again, for the non-substantial, content is the same, but the stages are going to be different. So for the workflow stages, the new course will go naturally with the faculty first, because it's faculty that's going to be proposing a new course. That will then go to the division coordinator to the next stage, which will consist of the division coordinator, articulation officer, plus the librarian. And there is no ability to send back at this stage, correct?
I believe so, yes.
From there, it moves on to the tech review committee and the AP and P outcomes. Is that a group or is that a committee?
Those are reps.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's like a subgroup of the committee.
Now, when you are going through these stages, do you generally do this in like a group setting, or are individuals doing this on their own and they're assigned particular departments in order to do that?
It's done really individually as it goes to different stages. Those particular individuals, even if there's more than one, like the committee is a group and the outcomes is a group tech review committee, but each individual person logs in and does their own evaluation.
And so they'll determine who's going to be responsible for what on their own, or?
Well, no, kind of everybody looks over everything. It's more a somewhat of a sense of redundancy than breaking it down into pieces.
Okay. Okay. From the outcome, from the tech review stage with the AP and P outcomes, we've got the AP and P committee. They go through an approval process. Agenda and approval. They'll get a chance to review. VP of Academic Affairs will get a chance to look at it. And then the Senate, the board, the chancellor, and the banner, plus banner. Almost all stages can send back the workflow to the author. And the place where you put the changes that need to be made is usually in the comments area. Is that Sam, typically what you do?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, is there anything I'm missing in terms of I'm assuming it flows through all of these different committees, and an individual will submit or advance the workflow depending on. I guess the question that I was asking, Scott, had more to do with, is there an individual who's responsible for ultimately advancing that workflow once it's been reviewed by everybody?
Well, once every assigned role has done their review, the system advances it. If it stays stuck, for example, like it's been sitting for an extended period of time, the curriculum specialists have in the past reached out to those various individuals, as does the author, by going to the dashboard under the action items, viewing the status. So they've also contacted, let's just say it's stuck at the APNP committee member, which is like 20 or so members, member number 3 is still outstanding, so I can't advance until member number 3 finalizes that review and approval. So we've done that in the past, but I think for instances like this past semester when there's over 500 different workflows, the curriculum specialist has not been involved in monitoring the various stages the way that we've done that in the past.
Okay. And that makes sense. I was just kind of trying to get at your process a little bit as I'm new to Antelope Valley. I wanted to make sure I understood. I had a couple of questions just about that. In terms of who ultimately is the one, and I should have said submits the workflow. Advance the workflow is what the curriculum specialists do if it's stuck. I know. Okay. So this all looks good. For the substantial course revision workflow stages, really not that different. In fact, not different at all from the new course workflow. It basically goes through the same set of stages. The faculty creates it in the new revision. The division coordinator, the articulation officer, and the librarian review and I'm sure add their feedback. Tech review committee and APNP outcomes then take a look at it, and it's got to go through everybody in order for it to be submitted to the next stage. Then the APNP committee, agenda and approval, VP of academic affairs, Senate, board, chancellor, and a banner. Is there any questions on this, how these workflow stages move? Before I move on to the non-substantial. Okay. And with the non-substantial course revision workflow stages, this is the one that is different from the other two. Starts with the faculty. Again, you go to the division coordinator, articulation officer, but now you are working with the curriculum specialist at that second stage. The tech review committee only. It does go to the APNP committee, agenda and approval, VP of academic affairs again, and the Senate board, chancellor, and banner have to approve those changes. It can be, you can send back from all stages in this one, unlike the previous workflows, where the second stage does not have a send back. Always check the comments before resubmitting. That's very important to communicate to the originator if it's going back to them or whatever stage in the process it needs to go back to.
By the way, I do think, can you go back one screen? I do think the no send back is just for the librarian. I'm remembering that now. The articulation officer and division coordinator can send back. It's just the librarian that does not. Sorry about that.
Those permissions. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yes, and let's not lose that.
No, we're not losing.
So says the articulation officer.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. Let's keep that.
Oh, I don't envy your job. The send back experience. All right. So the author's agreement. Now this is unique, I think, to your school. I haven't seen this on in other schools. I really like it. That's why I bring it up. I think this is a really good idea. This box is present on the cover info tab of any proposal. Indicate I understand on each item. And then this is a new feature to avoid delayed approval timeline. I love this. When you send it back, you have to review the comments in the various sections. You have to make the corrections and seek support from APNP rep as necessary and resubmit the workflow. Love that. Be aware that all proposal corrections will lengthen the approval timeline. Love that. That is brilliant. I don't know whose idea this was, but I'm being very complimentary about this.
This is new, just because we had so many issues with enabling the send back feature this past term. There was a lot of good that came from it, but also, how do people know what to fix? We kind of had a tug of war with people submitting and us sending back. So we're hoping this helps alleviate some of that frustration. So yes, this is new and it is required. So you should not be able to submit the workflow unless you mark that you understand these two statements. And there's something for the program side too, just to keep things, similar on both sides.
Yeah. Excellent. The reviewer. So when you are making change, when you're reviewing, if you want to make a change somewhere, you mark request change so it highlights the box where that change is supposed to happen. So you click request change, and then that's where you're adding the comment down below. So leave constructive comments to help the author make the appropriate changes. Review the entire proposal, then send back at once. And it looks like you're doing the quick send back, which makes sense. And the difference between the full send back and the quick send back is, if you do a full send back, it goes all the way back to the beginning and has to go through all of the stages again. A quick send back sends it back to the individual who needs to make the change. They make the change, and then they hit submit, and it goes right back into the place where it was sent back. So it brings it back into that part of the workflow rather than having to go all the way through the whole thing again. Quick send back is the best in some cases, most cases. Any questions about that?
I just have a comment for eLumen. So whenever you submit, let's say you're reviewing and you've suggested changes and those changes have been changed and you submit it to forward the workflow, there is something that comes up that says, are you sure this is what you want to do? And then you press yes and it goes forward. But if you accidentally click full send back, it doesn't even ask if this is for sure what you want. It just sends it immediately. So that sometimes if you're making a mistake and you accidentally push full send back instead of quick, there's nothing that you can do to make sure that you fix that before it goes forward. That's just a little feedback for eLumen. That's it.
I like that, and that's actually something we've been talking about, is adding those kinds of messages into eLumen. So I'm going to make a note of this. It may not happen overnight. It may take a while for it to be added, but I'm going to let them know that that's something that's because that's a really good idea.
Just because the buttons are right by each other,
Yeah.
and that is a huge change, sending it all the way back to the beginning. So just are you sure this is what you want to do would be nice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just made a note to have that we can add a warning notification when hitting full send back. It's a very good idea. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Sam, I know you had asked the question. I believe it was you that asked the question about how to figure out where the changes are supposed to be made. Does this help with that, or is this still, do you still have questions, or are you asking, how do you know which changes have actually been made?
No, I was just kind of directing a response to Richie about the email, but this is one component of where to look, and then the activity log. This is something that we need to train our faculty on, kind of searching better, who obviously are not part of the committee, who don't see all the comments and etc. But the activity log, I think, is newer, maybe released last year at some point. So I think that tool is underutilized. So if we go to the actual eLumen site, if you could kind of share that feature, I think it'd be really helpful for the committee to see.
There's a couple of things I'm going to share around that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep. So yes, I can certainly show both of them. All right. Wow. There we go. Let me make sure I'm on the right spot. The faculty, when the faculty receives when something gets sent back, the box is highlighted. The comment is generally down below. This course does have an equivalent course, as you can see right here. And it says, no, there's no equivalency. So we got to adjust that. So the reviewers, the review areas in red. You got to look down below for the comments to find out what change needs to be made. And then when you hit submit, send back to that reviewers stage that sent it to you. That's the beauty of the quick send back. So when the faculty hits submit, it goes right back where it left off to that reviewer. Any questions there? This is exactly what you were talking about, right? The activity log.
Yes.
At the top of every workflow is this activity log. When you enter the workflow using Start Review, you can use the activity log to review items you requested to be changed. So you can look and see, has this change been sent back and has it been completed? There's the part that's been requested for change. And then it should show whether or not that got resubmitted, I believe. But at least this will show you what parts have been requested to be changed. So Richie, does that help you?
I think going through the eLumen is not a problem. I guess it's just a question of, I think, getting an email notification would help expedite certain things that might take days unless I go into eLumen, if that makes any sense. So if it's on eLumen, I have no problem of being able to locate where the comments are or what kind of feedback I get. The problem is I'm not getting the email notification. And that's been an issue for me personally. So
Okay. Impact reports. So in the curriculum library and the dashboard, there is an impact report. It provides the course and programs that have been impacted by any of the modifications that you have made. Whether this course course that use this course as a requisite, courses that are requisites of this course, and most importantly, programs that are affected by this course. So the changes that you can make sure that you know what is affected by the changes made by this course. There is a CSV available for that and a PDF, depending on which is most convenient for you. You guys do the PDF or the CSV is for these reports?
We usually use the PDF when we're needing it for our meetings.
Okay. Yeah, which the layout's probably going to be a lot prettier than the CSV for sure. Yeah, and the reason I'm asking that question is I'm kind of like wondering, does this stuff then go into some kind of a larger spreadsheet? Or, okay, that makes sense. Some of these questions are for my own knowledge, so I apologize that I'm asking them. Course change report. This is going to give you an indication of what has changed from the current version to the proposed version. If there has been a change, it is highlighted by a red exclamation point. So whatever field was changed, for example, you can see that the author in the current version was Ibrahim, and the proposed version is tech support. Interesting. Tech support's taken over. A red strike through and green underline on some fields. So that'll indicate, like, for example, the proposal start time went from summer 2021 to summer 2022. So that you can make sure that you know that start date has been changed. You can either save this as a PDF or print it right from the report screen. And it sounds like you use PDFs primarily for these.
I think when sharing with the committee PDFs, but in the work the curriculum specialists do behind the scenes, it's all spreadsheets.
Oh, okay. This is kind of nice because you do get the side-by-side look, so you can check and make sure that everything that needed to be changed gets changed, or at least be aware of what has changed. Here's some tips for inside the workflow. The proposal start. This indicates when the new, either the program or the or course is going to take effect in the catalog. So this is when the SLO and mapping indicated in the workflow will be active in the SLO module once approved through the workflow. And you can manage both of those inside the workflow. And since eLumen is time-based, you can only select a proposal start time that is in the future. So if you are in the middle of spring 2022, like we are now, you are not going to be able to use spring 2022 as a proposed start time because we're already in the middle of that term. So the only term you could create a course for is in the future. Any questions around that? Well, that's good because sometimes I get questions about that and it makes me nervous. One of the things to be aware of, and I don't know if she has this in the slide, it's something that's very close to me because I have to deal with it. It's very important to keep that proposal start time accurate and not get yourself in a situation where you got to deal with backdating if you can avoid it. We're actually in the spring going to have a webinar about that because backdating courses is really, really hard to do and it is expensive. And we don't want to ever have to do it for you. So it's, I guess what I'm saying is always be very conscious of that, the effective date. There's always going to be situations where you run into something going wrong or for whatever reason, and we can deal with that on a case-by-case basis, but it is very difficult to backdate courses. Units and hours, there's an auto calculation checkbox to keep the units and hours accurate. You can disable that if you need to. But the numbers are not going to be 100% accurate. You're going to have to go in there and make sure that all of the hours and all of the units line up correctly. You can have multiple profiles. So if there's, variable credits, there's different kind of profiles for that course, depending on how it's offered. You can have different units and hours for it. There will soon be a way to add minimum and maximum hours for a single profile. That's not quite ready for prime time yet. Any questions around the units and hours? Adding requisites and textbooks. Make sure you have added the information completely. Look for the X if you can remove it. You added it all the way. So requisite, you add the requisite, then you pick the course, add the information to the text box, and select add requisite again if you need to add another requisite. Adding a textbook, complete all the fields, and select add textbook. Have you run into any issues with this at all? Any questions about that?
I think this would probably serve for everybody to view while you actually do it, because sometimes I think I'm thinking of the various trouble calls I receive. I've had people comment that they can't add a textbook, and it's because they're not hitting they type everything in, save it at the bottom, the blue bar, but don't actually hit this add new textbook. Same with the prerequisites or advisories, they don't add it. So if you can live demo that, that would be really great, because I think it's seeing it is what makes the difference.
Okay, let me pull up the ABC site. quick here, so I make sure I have it. And I'm pulling up the test site naturally. I'm going to bring this down into this window. Oh, why are you not cooperating with me? I wonder if it's not letting me drop it in there because it's being shared. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second so I can drop my new, there we go. That's going to let me. Okay. Can everyone see this okay? So let's take a look at an active workflow where I can kind of show what we mean. So when you're adding a requisite, you want to make sure that you click on add requisite. You're going to select what kind of requisite it is, pre, anti, co, and then you will select the course that is the co-requisite or prerequisite or whatever requisite it is. Sam, is this what you were looking for?
Yes.
Awesome.
So if you select a course, you'll see how that one button is grayed out, but when you make a selection, the one within the gray box is now enabled. You click on that and then you actually get it added on. But if you
Right.
click the one in the light gray box, it's going to add a separate section for you.
That's right. It's going to
Add a-
create a new.
yeah.
It's going
That
to
is a
create,
common confusing thing for
right.
folks.
Now I've added the requisite. Now I'm going to add a new requisite group here. Okay. I see what you were getting at now. Okay, and I'm just going to remove those so they're not there anymore. And with the textbooks, you fill in everything. Okay. You know, one of the top 10 hardest things in the world to do? Type when people are watching you. Right? So now I've added it up above. Now, if I want to add another one, I've got to do the same thing. Is this what you were looking for me to demonstrate?
Yes, and I think what happens is people will type everything out and then scroll all the way to the bottom and just hit save. So if people get stuck, it's because they're not seeing it added right there in that dark gray box.
They have to
Yeah.
click the add textbook. Okay, so hopefully this will help so that now you have something visual you can show them.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to help. All right, let's go back to the slideshow. Okay, all right, curriculum map. It's very slick that this is in the workflow now. You can map your CSLOs to the ISLOs or the PSLOs. The selector here where it says ISLO, this also has the option to pull down the PSLOs. And then you can map everything accordingly. Any questions about that? And this mapping really helps with the reporting later on, of course. Deactivation workflow. When you deactivate a course, it automatically freezes all the content. It's done. You can't make any changes. Once it's been approved as a deactivated course, all that content is frozen. And the idea is on that to maintain data integrity. It provides the ability to say why the course is being deactivated. It does not provide a proposal start date option. It's going to become inactive, deactivated as soon as you approve it. So you may see them sitting around in the curriculum approval and in the dashboard for a while. Something to note, when you deactivate a course, it doesn't, the course code and the curriculum ID do not then become available for other courses. And that's the issue, Sam, that we're kind of running. It's similar to the issue that we're running into right now with the with those courses that we talked about earlier. And that's kind of why I'm bringing it up. It's once that ID and that course code are in there, whether it's active or not, it's still, eLumen won't allow it to be reused. And again, that has to do with data integrity, and it can do it. Having multiple versions with the same ID can really wreak havoc with how the data gets displayed. It can really mess it up. So it's something that is to be avoided at all costs. And we'll figure out a solution for you. I'm just not quite sure what that solution is going to be. I need to talk to people first. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry to jump back real quick, but I was putting a workflow through, and I got the ILO curriculum map, but the PSLO, when I clicked it, it said that nothing was found for that, but I certainly know I have PLOs.
Oh, okay.
Just wasn't sure if it was fully operational yet, or you know.
It should be fully operational. Is it in a program? Is the course currently in a program?
Actually, no, but so it's a new course creation.
Yes.
It probably needs to be linked on the program side for it to connect the PSLO.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Is it one of your honors courses?
Yeah.
Jane? Okay, that's probably why.
Got it. Thanks.
Sam, you beat me to it.
Sorry.
No, that's great. You know your stuff. So does that make sense about that? I just want to make sure I highlighted the fact that even though it's deactivated, doesn't mean that the course code and the curriculum ID become available. It will not. And I know that creates some problems. So that's something to be hyper aware of when you're deactivating courses.
Yeah, and if there's a section in the curriculum technician tab that also has like our internal ID.
Yes.
If that happens to be duplicated somewhere, even though the course and course number on the cover page isn't, that's caused issues in the past, so I've had to delete those. So we've kind of been down this path before, but of course I can't fully remove the deactivated course from our system like that. I need support with. So yeah,
right.
it makes sense.
The issue that I'm seeing with the one we talked about is even different than that. It's even more complex because it's a version of a course that has the same ID, and now you're trying to create a new.
Yeah.
And that really, to me, it's really hinky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how we're going to address that. So there's going to I'm sure we're going to have to do some creative thinking, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And of course, again, are there any questions at this point? We're kind of to the end of our end of the road here, and there is one more thing that I do want to show you, but I do want to give you an opportunity. Although I kind of gave you an opportunity through. I prefer to have questions when they're relevant to what we're talking about. So.
Yeah, we've been asking questions throughout, so there's probably none left over.
Okay, so something that I wanted to show you was, and I'm going to pull back my screen here so I can see. I am going to show you a way that you can kind of take a look at how reviewers can see changes by using the show changes button. So I am going to go to the curriculum library. I'm going to pull up, actually, I'm going to go to the dashboard and see if I can get into econ. It's under
It
the,
should be under social and behavioral sciences at the very, very bottom.
of course. There we go. Okay. So I'm in as a curriculum specialist, looking at economics, and I'm going to check out the econ. Notice how now I only see the econ 100 because it's a great way to filter things in the dashboard, is to go by department. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Have you used this button right here at all? The show last changes?
I use it all the time.
Okay. And that, I mean, it's a super useful tool because you click on this button and it allows you to see exactly what has been changed. And this is for reviewers.
And a special note, anything that is color coded is different. So you wouldn't need to say hover over the SAM code because it's in gray, but anything in the various colors, immediately that's the indication that something's been modified from the last review.
And you can see that the original Ibrahim was the original creator and contribute, and you can see he's in red on the right. That's because he's been deleted, and the green is what's been added. And I want to see if there's any, did they do the learning outcomes? Yeah, you can see course objectives. All of these course objectives were the original. So what was old is on the left. What is new is on the right. All of those were deleted and new ones were added, although they look exactly the same. Again. And these are unchanged from last semester. And just to add a side note, is there, has Megan talked to you about making sure that when you're making changes to SLOs, to do those in the workflow rather than in the SLO library?
We haven't dived into the SLO part of the training yet, so I don't think we've touched on this at all.
Okay. Just something as an aside so that you're aware of it. If you're going to change the SLO, it's best to change it in the workflow and not, once you're in curriculum, it's best to change it in the workflow rather than, because it can create havoc with the data. When you change it, and I'll show people what I'm talking about here. From the SLO listing, you don't want to change it over here. This put a big red X through. You don't want to change the SLOs here. I would, if you're going to make changes to the SLOs, do that in the workflow.
That's good to know. That's, and something we'll also make sure the SLO committee is aware of.
Yep. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to kind of highlight, and I'm going to go back to being a curriculum specialist. I'm going to go to my inbox. Let's see here. Where's my Econ 101?
I suggest you filter by the org. We have a lot in the.
Oh, I thank you. There's the one. Oh, I got to go to tech review. I knew that when I prepared for this meeting, and I forgot. Okay, so just again to kind of revisit, and I know you've been doing this, when we request a change. So I'm now reviewing this. This is the area where I get to review. I request a change and I add a comment down below. More detail in the description. The important thing to remember is this is not saved yet. This comment is here, but it is not saved and added until you click on add comment. That's when it attaches it to the workflow. So it's very important to make sure that you click on this add comment button and don't go down, because if I hit, quick send back right now, there will be no comment. I'm not going to save this because it will actually add it to the workflow. So I'm not going to do that for right now. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. Well, and that is, oh, one last thing. It's not letting me add it again. Oh, wait. Nope. If you want to, I'm going to stop sharing again here because it's being ridiculous. So it'll just take me a second. Apparently Zoom doesn't let me add additional tabs when I am sharing my screen, but it lets me take them away. Okay, here we go. Last piece of the puzzle is this. If you run into any technical issues, if you run into anything where things are not working the way it's supposed to work, we have this support button. And there are two things that you can access from there. One is the knowledge base, which will show, explain to you how to do certain things. We have a searchable knowledge base. And the other thing is you can send messages to our support team, which is, I was the front end person for a very long time that addressed those. And quite honestly, I still am doing a lot of that to help out. We will respond to those questions and either, we'll direct it to, it'll be directed towards me, your CSM, or it'll be directed to the technical team if it's something that looks like a bug. Any questions about any of that?
I just wanted to kind of add a comment. The signature tagline of the curriculum specialist email does also have the email address to where you can submit tickets. But if you go through the support button, it gives you kind of like a status update, and you could see where the ticket is as far as what eLumen's working on, et cetera, or any responses. It does also trigger an email, but it's nice to go in and see them in one location. So that's the advantage of going and utilizing the support button versus just separately emailing tickets at eLumen.
Yeah, that connects you directly to our technical support system, which is Zendesk. And it will, yeah, like she said, everything's nicely organized in there. And you can kind of see the whole chain of communication in one place. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the things that you wanted me to check out. And it's basically around how the notifications get sent out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk with Megan, gather up as much documentation as I can for you, or produce that documentation and send that along to you within the next, by next week at the latest.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, and wow, I was going to say something and it was in my head literally 30 seconds ago and it's completely gone now. Wow. Life on the other side of 50 is fun. But thank
We're
you.
in the same boat.
And so we'll see you again in 2 weeks when you go over program workflows at that time.
Absolutely. And if you have any, if any questions come up in the interim, either about this presentation or things that you really, really want to talk about during the program presentation, let me know.
Okay, we will do that. Appreciate it. All right, have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, we're in the evening now. It's dinner time.
Actually, that's right. I keep forgetting you're 2 hours ahead of us. Or is
Thank
it
you,
3
Bob.
hours?
Two.
Two.
And Sam, I'll touch base with you on that curriculum.
The kinesiology. Yeah, we'll touch base. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so. Yeah, and there's some discussion in the chat about issues with tickets. So hopefully that'll be improving in the future. So we're going to move on to our discussion. We've got a couple of things. They shouldn't take long. We're introducing a couple of topics. So again, I'm introducing them. I'm not expecting them to be solved today. So it's just that I want people to start thinking about them or to have some awareness of them. So program workflow. So we put that there because we kind of thought we would be dealing with programs today, but it's still useful to talk about it now. So the first is we are making a change in the program workflows so that there's a counselor review stage. The reason for that is we were seeing that a lot of times the issues that were in programs, the counselors could identify them, but they weren't really having an opportunity to truly see them until we got in the meeting. And so stuff was being done in the meeting. So we realized the counselors need to be in the workflow for programs with the ability to send back so that they can do that before it comes to the meeting. It'll allow them to be more thorough and it'll allow the meetings to move more efficiently. So that's kind of the first statement we're making about a change to the workflows. So any comments on that, just sort of any questions? We really think it's going to improve things to do that. And we checked with Luis and Jessica, and they both also agree having the counselors in that earlier stage with the ability to look at things, work with the faculty member making the course and make those changes beforehand, make everybody's life better and easier. And that's going to connect to the membership discussion we're having in a bit, but we haven't gotten there yet. But just wanted people to know that. So communication, and that got mentioned here. When a program is going through a workflow, as Bob mentioned, eLumen does not send out any emails. So when it goes from stage to stage, the next stage doesn't get an email saying you have a program waiting for you. When you're sending it back to the originator, eLumen does not send an email saying, hey, you've got a program that's been sent back that you need to look at. We thought it did. This was new information to us. We went through the last fall thinking that's how it worked because it worked that way with the courses. It actually explained some of the issues we were running into last fall. And so this was new information and not fun information to learn. The issue is we now need to develop a communication system for that outside of eLumen. So meaning you're a reviewer, you're looking at a program, you send a program back to the person who created it. We have to develop a system so that that person is aware that that has occurred. And again, eLumen is not going to do that for us. So we have to develop our own system. So again, I'm not expecting us to solve this now. I actually, because you're just being introduced to this, if anybody has a brilliant idea right now, let's hear them. But otherwise, I'm planning for this to come back at the next meeting as a continued discussion item so that people had a chance to put some thought into it, especially after we go through the program training, ideas on how to make this communication system happen. But we have to develop a communication system outside of eLumen. And, we had that before. We had all the online systems, but I generally don't quite remember what we used to do. Heidi.
So help me remember this. I know that whenever someone is submitting a course, you have an author and you have contributors. Do you have the same thing on the program?
And though you have an author, I think you can have contributors. I'm not sure.
Well, what we can do is just when we're making note of things in a program that need to be fixed and we're sending it back, just make note of the author or contributors or one or both and send a quick email. Hey, you need to fix this in your program. Make sure you go into eLumen and do that.
And that's definitely a legitimate method. What do people think of that idea?
I mean, it's one extra step, but I mean, eLumen doesn't have a method for us.
Jessica.
So once I found out that this was an issue, especially I actually sent an email to a couple of folks because I knew this was an issue. But I don't think that's enough, honestly, because the entire, as we're looking at it for a committee and we can see all the comments, and it's just an idea to throw it out there. Maybe we need like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet as we're tracking. These are some of the issues. What I'm doing is I'm entering the comments. Now that I know, I just start dumping them into an email because I know I'm going to notify the author of the course or the program or whatever. So that way everybody can see that this was an issue already identified. So the email's great. It's something I'm already doing. It's an extra step, but when folks get something from eLumen that says your class is returned and they don't know because eLumen doesn't go the extra step in identifying the area that was identified as an issue.
Okay.
Well, no, right now the issue is in a program,
Program.
they're not even going to get the email. It's not that they get an email that doesn't tell them. It's like they will receive nothing.
But that's still the same thing, if we're sending an email, but at the same time, at that point, just create a Google Sheet. There's a program, there's an issue with this program. Everybody in the committee has access to it.
Okay, well, that's fine for the committee, but the issue is if we're going to send it back to the faculty member, wouldn't we have to create Google Sheets that has the entire, I mean, you're saying you create a separate Google form for each course, or each program? Because you're saying having one Google form, that means every single faculty member has to be a part of it.
Scott, so if I may say so, in the as we talked about it last week, now that the counselors are going to be embedded in the workflow at the first stage, and the faculty will have to approach us in order to, if they're revising or if they are creating a new program, maybe that will cut down on a lot of the going back and forth. But I do agree that there has to be some kind of method. Aside from that, if once it gets past the counselors for other reasons that we may not be looking at, I mean, we just don't know exactly what will happen as we walk down the road with this new workflow.
Yes, okay. Sam?
So there's two sides to this communication piece. There's obviously contacting the faculty, and then there's also contacting the next person in the review process. So if you say articulation officer are stage number 3 and stage number 4 is the APMP committee, the committee members won't know that a program is sitting in their inbox until they go in, or unless the previous stage, which would be articulation officer, emails them. So there's that component. And then there's also obviously contacting the faculty. I think for the way that we manage things on the curriculum specialist side, we get a snapshot of where everything is by going to the dashboard. Now, I know there was a few folks who did not have access to the dashboard. That is actually a bigger, larger issue with our data load, which it's a system thing, but I think I fixed it for now. And hopefully we can talk to the data steward who imports the data, so we don't have the issue moving forward. But having the dashboard gives you a snapshot of everything, and you'll see, for example, if art history gets sent back, it'll say pending review by Rhea Gahari, because she's the author, right? So that's an easier way, I think, than creating a spreadsheet, at least for me, because I'm always in eLumen. But I think I don't know, like an email I think would be better than nothing. But I know that the frustration for faculty not understanding that they have been sent something back. That's why we added that, like, I understand statement, that it's their responsibility to go into the system and check. So that's one piece that we hope helps, but I'm I guess sending an email to everybody on the authors, and there is contributors listed there, might be helpful, but I don't know that
The
there's.
work, Sam, I'm going to interrupt for a second. The workload for you just increases with this. Part of this problem is the fact that faculty do not go back in and check when they should. So that is the faculty's responsibility. The other problem is, and I'm sorry to say this, guys, but it's the reps that are on this committee who are also not paying attention to where the courses and programs are in the process for their division. I know you guys have a ton of work, and I am not saying that I'm trying to add to it, but part of your responsibility is to follow up with what's going on in your division. And so faculty need to step up though, and understand if they submit something, they need to follow up and to look and to check on it. Because there's not an easy way to do this. I'm not comfortable making Sam and Debbie have to figure out and send, keep track of it all and send emails reminding faculty. That just seems like a lot of work for them.
It is. They have a lot of work, and it would just be an additional thing they're having to do when they shouldn't have to be doing all of that. So everybody now has an understanding of the complexity of this. This is why I'm saying we're not going to solve this today, but I wanted people to have an understanding. This is a big issue. So we'll come back to this as another discussion in the next meeting. Have some ideas. If you have ideas before the next meeting, go ahead and shoot them to me as an email, and I can sort of talk to you, and maybe we can see where we can come to. But it's we will need a couple of meetings to at least try to talk this out to see where we can go with this. Okay, any last minute comments on this topic? All right. So next item is the math language. We're going to be moving that back because I think, Jessica, you're going to have a meeting about that with, I forgot who, but you're going to have a meeting where there's probably going to be a lot of new information. So instead of talking about it twice, we'll wait until after you have that meeting.
Yes, the UC Office of the President is holding a meeting basically to say, I'm pretty sure they have not changed their minds, but I just want confirmation from them that the intermediate algebra is still going to be something that they expect to see as a prerequisite, and then we'll come back to the committee.
Okay, excellent. So the last item here for discussion is membership. So there's two items with membership we want to bring up, and a change to membership requires the committee approving it. So that's why this is something that's a discussion that we can come back to the next meeting as an action item. The first change is since we're adding this counselor stage, we also realize we probably need to add another counselor to the committee. So right now we have Luis as official rep of the counseling department and Jessica as the articulation officer, but we want to add a second rep from the counseling department. So that's the idea we're putting out. Again, we would have to have approval from the membership, approval from the committee to change that membership, but that's the idea that we're asking about, that we'd like you to put some thought in and come back to the next meeting prepared to approve or not. The other question about membership, and Catherine, correct me if I'm getting this wrong, but we have historically had 2 reps for each area, but it's not officially codified in the handbook that we do that. So the question is, we would like to see about codifying in the handbook to have 2 members per area. And so that's the question being asked. Tell me if I'm wrong or right, Catherine.
Oh, yes, I had looked into it when I lost one of the reps from Arts and Humanities. And what happened was that we're down to 1 rep, And so we were going to see if we can get another volunteer. And when I looked at the handbook, it actually doesn't say specifically that we should have 2 reps from each division. It's just something we've always done. So I was suggesting that maybe we would like to at least delineate that inside our handbook.
Right. So officially, it is a change to our membership, even though pragmatically it isn't. It's one of those things where we've been doing it, even though the rules didn't say we were supposed to be doing it. So what we're basically asking is to officially approve the idea of having 2 reps per committee. And I think it's a good thing. I think AP&P is definitely a committee where having more hands helps, because there's always a lot to do. And we've found it useful historically to have 2 members, but that's the actual question at hand. So any immediate feedback or information on either of those topics related to membership?
So I think if that gets formalized, then that'll kind of solve the counselor, because then we'll have
That's
feedback
true.
from counseling. And I know when we added kinesiology, due to the nature of the department, I think we were only getting 1 rep. So would that be the exception, or will we be asking for 2 from that area? And then, of course, we also have to deal with the various shifts of departments, the ones that happen spring and the ones that will happen effective next fall.
In terms of the areas where we have 1, I don't know if we need to have it as a requirement to have 2. We could maybe have it up to 2. So that if you have departments where they only have 1, but we can still encourage having 2 per. But in terms of saying you only have 1, therefore this now creates this issue we have to fix, we may not want to go down that route, because sometimes they may just not be able to rustle up 2 members. Any other comments? Okay, so the membership question will come back as an action item at the next meeting. And you're right, Sam, I hadn't thought about the fact that if we have 2 members per department, or up to 2 members per department, that kind of answers the counselor question, because then they can add their second counselor. Because Jessica's officially articulation officer, not officially a rep from counseling. So therefore they would still have, So actually then there's technically only 1 question. The second question solves the first question. Yay, efficiency. All right. So as I sort of looked in my window, the sun is still out. So I think I kept my promise that we'll be done before sundown this day. Any last minute questions or statements before we move on, before we close out?
I have a statement.
Yep.
The ADTs that were revised, we're starting to receive feedback from the chancellor's office. Those emails are being sent out as we see the notifications. If anything got put in a review status. And then, of course, Debbie is working on the catalog. She sent those emails out. If there's any questions on what's been put in the catalog, please email her. She is doing a lot behind the scenes, and will obviously at the next draft, you'll see the updates for any comments. And of course, the color coding, we've tried to make all the changes from what's been approved so far, but there was a halting point. So it's not inclusive of everything that just got approved in January. So that work is still being done behind the scenes. So please be sure to check the actual drafts that are being sent out and provide any corrections or feedback. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed? All right, then go out and enjoy the sunlight. Bask in it today. Have a good
day, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Sam, are you hanging out for a little bit?
I wasn't planning on it, but if you have a question.
Oh, just a quick couple. I'm sorry. I mean, if you don't want to, it's fine. Just a quick couple of questions just to double check. Real quick. So basically we're for the honor corps, they're due the first week of April, right?